Hey guys, this is Lawrence of the Ketones and Coffee podcast. Make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any of this great content. Hey guys, this is Lawrence. So welcome back to the Ketones and Coffee podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in. I know everyone here that's listening are here because you want to create a sustainable, healthy lifestyle through the ketogenic diet. And every single week, I try to bring in guests that not only has the knowledge, but these individuals has also been through the same trials that we all have been through when it comes down to our search for a better health. We get together in hopes to assist you on your own journey. Our guest today is an online transformational coach. She has also earned her master's in clinical counseling with her focus on using food and mindset as tools to clear out all of the noise and chaos so that you can see clearly what you want to do and do it. Today, we are blessed to have the opportunity to get to know her a little bit more. I'm so excited for this. I am here with Emily Penton. Emily, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lawrence. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you on, and more so excited for our listeners to be able to learn more about you and hear your story. And I hope everyone sticks around until the end because Emily's story, we're all in for a treat. Looking at your before and after photos, and it's just truly amazing. But what you were able to do, you were able to lose weight in a short amount of time, and that's not even the best part of your story, which I'll have you tell in a second. I was going through your clients' testimonies about your coaching and looking through your clients' incredible transformation are a testament to what you're doing and your accomplishment that you've done in just a short period of time. And we're talking about within a few years, and you were able to turn things around. Just to preface for everybody that's here listening, you had suffered from bipolar disorder and multiple sclerosis, MS, on top of that, and it became so debilitating at some point that where you were taking multiple kinds of medications just to get out of bed, and eating a meat only diet changed everything for you. You didn't stop there. You're now helping people get out of that too, and I want for our listeners to be able to understand everything that you had endured. It can be hard for people to understand why we're doing this, why we're eating this way, um, if you didn't experience that, for one, right? It's just hard to wrap your head around a lifestyle like this if you didn't experience it, if you didn't went through the pain and suffering that goes with it. You've even described it as a miracle and a change you'd experienced within a short period of time, and has undeniably shifted your belief that there is a cure for this. Take us through this journey. You can go as early as you can. I always want to start, you know, with food because, it is food. It is the transition. It's unfortunate that we grow up in an environment where we might have not chosen to, because we are just following what everybody's doing on in our environment. And so I want to get to know your journey with food. What was your relationship with food, before all of this, before you've experienced, the the debilitating bipolar disorder? What was your relationship with food, growing up?
Yeah, I was always raised as meat and potatoes kind of a girl. But we always had a roll. We always had
Mhm,
bread. And we always had dessert. It
mhm,
wasn't a complete meal without having dessert. And that was, really ingrained in me at a very early age that um, that was just the process. And so my brain would go, okay, I have to eat my meat. I have to eat my potatoes. I have to eat my um, bread. And then the meal is not complete until I have dessert. And so, that's just the way that I was raised. And then whenever I got older and I went into the mental illness, um, that was the only joy that I had was the dessert. was, any kind of cakes or cookies or pies
Yep.
or
Yep.
ice cream. Um,
Mm,
and now looking back, I see that that's what complicated the problem
mm.
instead of resolved it. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was like for me growing up.
Yeah, it's the association of having to attach happiness with food. And when we are growing up, our parents give us treat when we are sad, we are lonely, we are when we bump our head, giving us a sweet treat. And that's what I've seen with everybody's journey is our relationship with food really started at a very early age, right? When we were kids, when we're sad and lonely, we turn to food for comfort, for happiness, and we carry that to our adulthood. And now we when we associate happiness with food, it just really becomes very hard to let go of that. It's conditioning that we've had for years. And breaking that cycle is very hard. I always wanted to start with that because for some people it's still very hard to let go of that, right? And you came to a point where enough was enough, right? And people may look at your diet, our diet, this community as extreme, because they don't understand what we went through, what we've gone through, um, you know, and the transition that we've experienced when we finally found joy in our life, right? So, someone very close to my wife suffers from bipolar disorder, and I just really want to understand, since you've gone through it. The doctor told her for her to get better, she had to be aware that there's a problem, right? And I think that can still be applied to any other issues. If you're not aware that you have inflammation, right? You didn't know that you had inflammation, so much inflammation, until you had actually started the diet, correct?
Yeah,
Mm,
and I mean, when you look back at pictures and stuff, that's obviously most of my weight was inflammation.
mm. And you were able to lose 100 pounds
Uh,
within the
roughly,
first year.
I don't really know how much I was at my highest, but I estimated it about 240,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
250. And
mm-hmm,
now I went down to 127, and now
mm-hmm.
I'm healthy and comfortable at 140.
For the doctors to be able to find help for her, she will have to be aware that there was a problem. So I want to just get to know, and for our listeners to understand what it's like to have that, to suffer from bipolar disorder. Can you describe what are your days like before you found this lifestyle?
Yeah, it's really hard to know whenever you're in the middle of it because it's such a fog.
Mm,
And you just assume that everybody else is experiencing a similar fog. But it at one point became obvious that I wasn't able to perform, regular things.
mm,
And that there was always a problem. There was always something going on, in my life relationally, in my career. I was always getting fired at my job,
mm,
because they liked me. And on my good days, I really was a great employee. But then there was always that, hey, I need to take the day off. Hey, like, I'm not okay. And they were always having to make exceptions for me. And so over time, when you add up all of these circumstances, you're just like, oh, there's a problem. Like, oh, there's a problem. And I really didn't recognize and realize how much of a problem it
mm,
was until I was about 30 years old.
so at some point, at what point that you had approached your specialist in maybe taking medications for that?
I was going through a really bad divorce, and well, actually, at the beginning, a really bad marriage, which is worse than a really bad divorce. But because you feel trapped, you feel totally stuck. And I was in the middle of that, and I went to my doctor and said, "Okay, I just need a pill. I need something to take away this pain and this misery." Because I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to function. I don't want to take care of my family. Like I can't. And that's whenever we started on the antidepressant medicine. But I didn't know even at that point that I was bipolar until I was on the antidepressants for a while. And then I started having my manic episodes. And that was really weird because it's like, okay, who am I? Am I this depressed person, or am I this like overachiever, doesn't sleep, gets obsessed about, one thing and focuses on one thing for 3 weeks? Who am I? And so
Yeah.
that was really difficult for me. And then of course we went on all the medications, the 900 milligrams of lithium, 80 milligrams of Prozac, 80 milligrams of Adderall just to get out of bed every day. And then of course, Ambien to sleep at night. And I'm thankful for those medications because they kept me from killing myself. And they kept me out of the psych ward. Because on bipolar disorder, and whenever you're manic, you do some crazy, crazy stuff. And that's normally whenever people get put in the psych ward is on a manic episode, not on a depressive episode. Depressive episode, they're just in bed and nobody sees them, nobody hears from them. Manic is whenever they're just running on all cylinders and just crazy.
So it seems like you're very aware that that the two episodes are happening. They're manic episodes and they're depressive episodes, and you are able to reflect on that. Are you able to reflect on that right after it happens? Or let's say you had a manic episodes, are you able to reflect on that? Okay, I did that, and then now I'm here. Because you must be aware, right, that to be able to find a cure, like you said. Because if you're looking for a solution, if you're going to your doctors, you're aware that there was a problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the depression was the reflection time. The depression was whenever kind of like whenever the energy leaves you and you're just like, you look back over the past 3 weeks or a month or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, how did I get into this situation? And you really believe that you're not going to do that again. You really believe, okay, I'm going to be aware now, and I'm going to not go on that manic. And the problem is that it feels really good
Emotional.
to feel the first part of the mania. Whenever you start to get that clarity of thought and you start to feel human again, it's so much better than being depressed and in bed and feeling like a worthless person. So it feels really good at the beginning, but then it just goes on the accelerator and goes way up too high. And so that's where you can't function. So if we could just keep the bipolar in the middle, then and keep it managed, because like I say, I still have bipolar disorder, but I have it managed in that I don't go into the deep depression and I don't go into the high mania. I'm right here and I can feel stuff coming up. I can feel whenever I'm stressed out. I have to make sure and consciously make a decision that, you know what? No, I'm not going to put that much stuff in my schedule. No, I'm going to make sure and eat my meal. No, I'm going to take a nap. Or no, I'm going to go walk outside and stick my feet in the grass. Like I'm more intentional about how I manage it instead of just like, you know, allowing it to just take over.
Yeah, and you had practiced the awareness that you've mentioned. You're aware of your triggers. You're aware that you are starting to feel something, and you have tools to be able to stay um, even keel in those moments. And that's the key, because our thoughts can be, you said you still have, bipolar, but you have it managed. You have the ability and the capacity to know when something is because you can feel it. It seemed like you're now sensitive to what you're feeling. Are you able, are
Yeah,
you always
absolutely.
like that, or you had to develop that?
No, I definitely had to develop that. And I didn't realize until I got to my baseline what that felt like. I didn't know what good felt like. I knew what
Mm,
depression felt like, and I knew what mania felt like. I didn't
mm,
know what baseline felt like. And so once I established that with carnivore, that was the only thing. It was not with medication, it was not with therapy, it was not with deep breathing. I was in such an inflamed state in my brain and in my body that I
mm,
couldn't do all these
mm,
techniques
mm.
that I know
Yeah, yeah.
until I found my
Mm,
baseline. And now that I know my baseline, I know when it deviates. I had an
mm,
example 4 weeks ago. I was doing a project with my son, and we were doing like a test kitchen. And my compromise with him was that whenever you have meat, you can have potatoes. And so we were cutting up French fries. And so we cut up these white potatoes and deep fried them in beef tallow or baked them in beef tallow. And so we had 3 different ways that we were doing it. And we were arguing because I was saying that they were going to be baked. That was going to be the best. That was going to be the crispiest. And he was saying that the deep fried was. And so we did a taste test. I should have just had him do the taste test and tell me
mm,
what's the best way. But I did the
mm,
taste test and I tasted 3 of each of the different types of fries. And these are literally from my kitchen, a baked potato in beef tallow. That's it. And so I had 10 fries, and they taste, he actually won. It was the deep fried was much, much better. But we tasted them. I didn't feel weird. I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to eat 50 French fries, because I haven't had French fries in 3 years.
mm,
I just was literally doing it as like a science experiment. And it didn't make me feel sick, nothing, no problems. The next day, I woke up with depression. And it wasn't just like, oh, my boat's rocking a little
yeah,
bit. It was like, boom,
yeah.
like bipolar depression
Mm,
from like 3 years
mm,
ago.
yeah.
I hadn't experienced that in so
Mm,
long. And so it was really a beautiful thing for me because I knew the difference. I knew
yeah.
my baseline and I knew that that was not part of my baseline.
Mm,
And so, of course, I didn't eat any more French fries, which wasn't a problem.
mm,
Went back to the animal meat and animal fat, and it went through my system within 48 hours, and I was back to superhuman,
yeah.
feeling great.
That's a great reminder for you. And how long did that last? Like, the is it would you call it another an onset of what happened to you
I mean, it
before?
was, it's hard to say because
Mm,
usually my bipolar cycles would
mm,
be for
mm.
days, weeks,
Days.
months,
Yeah.
So I look at it as a food injury
Mm,
because I
mm,
can look at the exact moment that
mm,
I
mm,
haven't had fries or potatoes
mm,
in three
mm,
years. I had 10 French
mm.
fries. And then the next day I had depression, like severe depression.
Y-
And so I was able to just like tell my family, okay, I'm depressed, something's wrong. I ate the potatoes, this is what happened. And I was able to just, go through it. I would say 24, probably like about 36 hours is when I started to feel it lift. And then by 48 hours it was gone.
The powerful thing there is you are now able to link that to what you ate, because
Mm-hmm.
before we didn't know that, right? And it that could be very hard for somebody that to understand that, for somebody that didn't is not going through that, and isn't sensitive to food like that. And but for me, it happens too whenever I would go off track. I can link my behaviors the next day to what I ate the day before. And what you're saying resonates so much, because whenever I would go off track, it would take me about 48 hours to get it out of my system to feel good again. Because now you've mentioned in your story that it took you years to feel that great, to feel joy again, right? But while you're there, it's hard to tell because it's been so long since you've felt that way. And if for everybody that's listening, Emily has turned this around within a few years, couple years to 3 years.
No,
And
I started eating this way February of 2019, and my
mhm,
last manic or depressive episode was April of 2019.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it was months that I was able to stop having the episodes of bipolar disorder.
Yeah, and now you're able to help other people, not just change your own lifestyle, change your own environment, and change your mood, right? Basically, manage the bipolar and the inflammation in your body, and now you're helping other people do the same,
Yeah.
right? And one of the guests on the show talked about, as much as great as this lifestyle is, it didn't fix the problem. It did give you the energy to now have the capacity to deal with it.
Yes.
Now you're the awareness that it gives you the clarity to be able to have that keen awareness of able to link what you feel to what you're eating. Now that awareness is the energy that it gives you is somehow what's giving you this capacity to be able to manage this problem. And it's just amazing to hear for our listeners here that's maybe going through something similar, or for me, we all go through the same things. There are different levels of um, inflammation. There are different levels of our conditioning in our bodies. So this is just a great story for people to maybe someone will be get impacted with this story. And I love that you're here. I want to talk about multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
And when did that start, and what's their experience like?
Um, my um, my acute onset
Mhm,
was in March of 2019. But once I got diagnosed, I could look back and I see symptoms for 10
mhm,
years.
mhm,
So I was always feeling really weird in my joints, like just a weird nerve pain in my joints. And I would get food caught in my throat,
mhm, mhm,
and like just not be able to swallow. I literally like be in a meal and have to go over to the trash can and like throw up or
mhm,
cough up my food because it literally wouldn't go down. Um, and it was only hit or miss. Like it would just happen like once a month, once every month or two. But that was pretty consistent. And then once I got my acute dysphagia, which just means basically that your throat does not swallow.
mhm,
And they checked it out and it wasn't mechanical, it was neurological. So my brain was not telling my throat to swallow. And then they found out where the lesion was on my left temporal lobe, and it all made sense that this was part of MS. Um, and then I couldn't walk without an assistive device. I couldn't talk. I had delayed and slurred speech. And then I had more significant brain fog than I even had with the bipolar disorder. Um, so a normal person or a logical person would say, oh, I started this crazy meat diet and now I'm hospitalized. So I need to go back to eating the way I was before, or I need to stop eating all this meat. But there was a knowing inside of me. There was I knew that I was supposed to continue eating meat. And so I did. And so I started February 24th of 2019. I was hospitalized March 2019. I kept eating meat, kept eating meat. My last MS symptom was May 9th of 2019. And that's been 3 years ago. I haven't had any symptoms. May 9th, that was yesterday. Oh my gosh.
Wow, congratulations. I'm so happy for you, and you're able to heal naturally, not, you know, going through any more. I don't want to say. I mean, I'm not somebody to throw shades at, pharmaceutical, the medical industry, because they do help. It's like the medication is to be able to do the practices, like, for you to be able to, um, survive the day, so you could do the practices, for me. But if you can heal naturally, if you can taper off the meds, slowly, and find out, ways um, to treat your symptoms with, with food, then that's the way to go. Leading to carnivore, I want to talk about carnivore now. What was the transition like for you early on? For some people, I understand that you did, because for some people they would do keto first and then carnivore, and your experience, you jumped right into carnivore. What was that transition like?
Yeah, I think if I hadn't already been so sick, that it would have
Mm,
been difficult, but I was already so miserable. And I know that people talk about how extreme this diet is, but
mm,
I was already in extreme mental illness hell,
mm, mm,
and physical hell, with my body shutting down with the MS. And so it really wasn't that extreme because I was already in such a bad place. It's
yeah,
just a
yeah.
new pile of horrible.
Mm,
And so I had the body aches. I felt like I had the flu. I had nausea. I was so tired. But then again, that's what I felt like before. Um,
mm,
and then I just gradually started feeling better.
mm,
And then whenever I felt joy for the first time about the end of the third week, that was all I needed. Once I had hope that I was capable of experiencing joy, I was just like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And then it just got better and better and
mm,
better.
mm, mm. Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, you're now desperate enough to try anything, right? If you, because I had an episode, about 5 years ago, where I had a panic attack. I couldn't sleep for days. I was willing to try everything. At that point, I was searching for, you know, I was going to doctors after doctors, um, hoping that somebody can tell me what's going on. But to my surprise, nobody knew. Just they're just giving me pills to sleep, or they're just giving me medication to, for my symptoms. But really, nobody knew what was going through my mind, what was going through my head. And at that time, I was willing to try everything. And you know if I had somebody to tell me about this diet, I would have jumped in. I wouldn't think twice about it. And if there was, just, a little bit of light, and a little bit of, hope, that this diet can change how I was back then, I would have jumped in. I don't think I would have, uh if it's not, I for me, the last thing is for me to take medication for anything. Like, I've always wanted to go through the natural way. But I've done I've had medications too. But and there's no comparison on what this diet could do for us. So, when did you realize that this can be a lifestyle for you? Like, at what point in this journey?
Um, I got to tell you, I really think it's whenever I experience joy, because I
Mm,
didn't
yeah.
I didn't know I was capable of
Mm,
experiencing joy. All I'd ever experienced was depression and mania. And
mm,
mania was a high, but it
mm,
wasn't joy. There was this calm,
mm,
this peace. You never feel calm in mania. You're just
mm,
like amped up. and you're just go, 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 go. But there was this calm in that joy and a peace in that joy that was something I had never experienced. I had never felt. And I was addicted. And now it's every day. I don't start my day if I don't wake up feeling joy. Like if I don't immediately feel joy and peace, I enter into meditation and prayer, and I push through, and I don't step my feet out on the floor until I am experiencing joy and peace. And I start my day that way. Now I'm absolutely intentional about that. And thankfully it's very easy to access as long as I maintain this way of eating. I don't deviate.
So many people I've interviewed on the carnivore lifestyle have experienced and told stories about the freedom and how much freedom this diet gives them. Many people I had on the show, I heard you talk about, the same joy, the same freedom that it gives you. Talk about, obviously you've talked about the joy. What was the difference, between now, your lifestyle now, the biggest difference? Like, I know you've mentioned joy for one. The biggest difference you've experienced on carnivore. What else is there? The benefits.
The ability to have an idea and execute it, because I was always brilliant. I always had really good ideas and hope, and even in the mania, I would have these brilliant ideas, but I couldn't execute them because I couldn't calm down long enough to actually do the steps that it takes. And so now that I'm not in bed and I'm not manic, I'm able to have a great idea and then execute it and follow through with it and be stable enough to help other people. If I wasn't consistent enough and I wasn't stable enough, then I would have a client sign up with me, and then I would just be like, oh, sorry, I went through a depressive episode. Sorry, I didn't talk to you for a month, But no, I'm able to connect with them every day and really hold their hand through this process until they get freedom.
You're actually following through to your promise to yourself of doing this consistently. I always say that I've been doing this podcast for, over a year now, just crossed a year. And I wouldn't have the energy. I don't imagine myself doing this for my own education if it wasn't for the energy that I am getting from this lifestyle. There is no way that I'm seeing myself researching, taking the time and just learning about this diet if it didn't give me so much energy, so much clarity, and so much focus. Before, I couldn't even finish a chapter. Now I've finished multiple books and just addicted to learning more about this lifestyle. All right, so I wanna get to tapering off the medication. I understand that you were still on medications when you started the diet. Are you still on any medications today?
No, I haven't had a medication since September of 2019.
Awesome, because I had a Judy Cho on the show talking about, being able to taper off the medication, because you cannot just get off it while you're transitioning in the diet. You have to slowly. Can you talk about that and the consequences of, to anyone that's listening that's maybe on medication and looking to change their diet into maybe keto or carnivore? What's your experience in tapering off the medications?
I suggest to all of my clients that they don't even talk about tapering off their medication until they get that baseline. Until you get to that place where you're just like, okay, I'm good. I can have an idea and I can execute it. I can follow through with something. Like, once you get your boat stable, because anytime that you go and taper down on a medication, your boat's going to rock a little bit. So you want to start with a stable boat at first, because if you're at the beginning, you're already going through so much. I mean, you're already going through all this transition. Why would you throw that into the mix then? Like, no, just keep the safety blanket of your medication until you get stability, and then start talking to your doctor about tapering it down. Don't ever do it on your own. Don't ever do it drastically. Don't ever just stop taking your meds, because that is a recipe for disaster, and that can end you up in the psych ward quick.
How long did it take you to get it off completely?
Well, mine's a little bit of a different story, and I don't really go into it in too much detail because it's confusing. But at my most, I was on 900 milligrams of lithium. And then on our journey, my psychiatrist and I were finding that I wasn't responding well to the medication. And we found a different modality called alpha stim. It's an electrical stimulation that just basically it's kind of like a ear clip. It clips on each of my ears, and then it creates electrical current and it regulates my vagus nerve. And so I was able to go from 900 milligrams of lithium to 300 milligrams of lithium using that device every day, twice a day. I don't understand the science of it. I just know that it brought me to the point where I could stay out of the psych ward on 300 milligrams of lithium as long as I use the alpha stim. And you can look that up, alphastim, STIM.com. It's a great device, but it's like $1,000 and insurance doesn't cover it. So it's usually not an option for most people. So I was on 300 milligrams of lithium, but I still wasn't functioning. I still wasn't well. I still didn't have that baseline. I still didn't have that ability to execute plans. I was either depressed or I was manic. But I wasn't in the psych ward, and I wasn't, trying to kill myself. So yes, I'm thankful for the medications for that. But we started really slow. And he had me taper down each month. I would meet with him every month, and he would just have me take a little bit less, and then a little bit less, and a little bit less. I don't understand the percentages of it. I just listened to what my doctor told me to do.
When was the last pill you had taken?
September 26th of 2019.
Do you remember that day?
I made a post. Yeah, I made a post, and I actually, Sean Baker reposted it. Because it was a pill in my hand, and it was like, this is my last dose of lithium. And it was a gamble for me to even say that out loud, to say that to, the world, like, okay, I'm going off my meds, like, y'all. And honestly, that was another reason why I did it, because I was just like, okay, watch me, watch me. If you notice that I'm posting manically or, anything, like, I wanted that accountability of social media for people to keep me in check. And thankfully it worked, and I haven't had to go back.
Man, it must have been a scary time for you to get off medications, because it has helped you for so many years to be able to, function and, even just get out of bed in the morning. So, man, the courage that you have to have and the confidence that you have for this lifestyle must have been, the best at that point in your life. And the transition was, it's not the fastest transition, but it created this new lifestyle for you, where you're now off the medications, and you are now at that point that you are very consistent to everything that you're doing, and you're now helping people. I've seen the testimonies of people, the transformations of people on your socials. Go follow Emily on her socials. We'll link everything down below. But I want to talk to you about your coaching, and what are the telltale signs of clients that has been very, very successful within your program, to start this lifestyle. Obviously, But are there telltale signs that you see in a client that has a very high chance of success? Is it mindset going in? Is it somebody that's desperate enough to try new things, getting to that point? What do you see in a client that has seen great success?
Well, that's a little bit different because
Mhm.
I don't work with just regular people. I don't work with people that are just
Mhm.
like, oh, I want to lose 5 pounds.
Yep.
Like that's okay. That's awesome. Go find
Mhm.
another coach.
Mhm.
Like I work with people who need the intensive work. They need
Mhm.
the intensive help. Because I recognize that I'm not doing therapy here, but I've practiced as a therapist. I have my master's degree. And so I still have that toolbox that whenever stuff bubbles to the surface with childhood trauma, relational trauma, negative self-talk, self-sabotage,
Mhm.
I'm able to really hold a space for that and to hold their hand and walk them through this. And to really find that balance of love and calling them out and saying, nope, that's the addictive mind. You have to stop that thought pattern, or just meeting them where they're at.
Mhm.
But what I have found is the people that I really I see thrive the most
Mhm.
are the people who are the most miserable.
Mhm.
Um, and you would think that that would be the opposite.
Mhm.
But it's the people that come to me and they're like, I'm okay. I'm
Mhm.
okay. Like you
Mhm.
said, they don't recognize that they have a problem, but
Mhm.
it's people that come to me that say, Emily, I'm not going to survive. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I need help. Those are the people that are ready. Those are the people that knock it out of the park because they're willing to connect with me and to do the work that needs to be done because it's work. They have to
Mhm.
respond to me through email at least 5 times a week whenever they're doing my 8-week system. And they have to do the work. They can't just go on autopilot because
Mhm.
going on autopilot is how they got here. They have to really be intentional. And then I've also found that it's the people who have a tiny bit of hope. Because
Mhm.
if they had a whole lot of hope, they probably would just do it on their own. But it's that they have a tiny bit of hope, but they believe in themselves that they are worthy. Because you have to know how worthy you are of
Mhm.
healing and feeling better. And then that just multiplies.
What's the first week like for your clients? What do you have them do in the first week?
The first week is usually the toughest week.
Mhm.
But what we do is we meet one on one, and
Mhm.
our one on one is for an hour and a half
Mhm.
because we go deep. We go deep into where they're at and really assessing the damage, assessing like how bad is it with their mental health and with their physical health and with their addiction. Because 9 times out of 10, when they're in this
Yep.
position, they're addicted to sugar and carbs. And so we have to address the addiction. We can't pretend like it's not there. Um, and so what I do is I have them tell me what foods are best for their body. I'm
Mhm.
not teaching them to listen to me. I'm not teaching them to listen to Dr. Baker,
Mhm.
Dr. Barry, or anybody else. I'm teaching them to listen to themselves. And so I
Mhm.
have them tell me what foods they know are good for them. And
Mhm.
they usually come up with a perfect plan, because how arrogant of me that I would think that I know what is best for their body.
Mhm.
I don't. They know. They're the ones who they eat it and then they feel a certain way. And so they know that they know that they know they're not supposed to eat sugar. They know that they know that they know that they're not supposed to eat junk carbs and processed food. And they might think, you know what, when I have pickles, I'm fine. Okay,
Mhm.
good. Throw pickles in there. It's okay. We get to write this story. We get to write this program. It doesn't have to be what some carnivore community deems the carnivore diet. We're using carnivore as a tool to get us to a healthier place and to break this addiction. And then I hold them accountable for the next 8 weeks to their plan, to what they say. I just check back in with them and say, hey, you said that you thought that it wasn't going to be best for you to eat this, or hey, you said you thought that it was best whenever you included, fatty meats, or you included that, I see in your diet that you haven't had a fatty meat in, half a day or whatever. So I just hold them accountable to their plan.
That is, having a coach is so important nowadays when you're struggling, because I myself found a counselor very helpful with my experience with mental illness, because some of the things I already know, but I needed somebody to validate those things, right? Like you said, we know that sugar is, something that causes us all of these inflammation in our body, but sometimes you need somebody to tell you that it is wrong, because we are somewhat in denial of that, right? Because maybe it's been part of your life, ever since you were a kid. It's something that's been you've associated with happiness, and so you're somewhat afraid to let go of that. But having a coach right there next to you telling you that you shouldn't have this, or you you should be you should be able to feel better if you don't have this in your diet, and having that accountability is always very helpful when in terms of just transitioning your lifestyle into if you're desperate enough to try everything, it means that you do really want to live a lifestyle. And having a coach like you and having to hear your story, and that hope, if you were able to do it, right? you know you were taking medications for bipolar, for multiple sclerosis, and you were able to heal and now off of those meds. It gives a lot of hope to many people that are struggling. And if you hadn't gone through that, it's really hard to wrap your head around it. But if you're somebody that's going through that, know that there's hope, know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We just gotta do the work, right?
Yeah.
You just gotta do the work. I can't just tell you what to do, but you have to do the work. And so I love what you're doing for your community, for the people that you're helping. And I can see that you are changing many people. And so I'd love to thank you for coming on and sharing your story here with our listeners. And I'd like for my listeners to be able to find you. Where can they find you, Emily?
Mainly on Instagram, at Carnivore Minds. If they're interested in coaching, emailing me is the best way because I get a lot of messages. So email me at innerclaritysystem@gmail.com.
We're gonna link that in the description below, guys, so you guys can check that out. Emily, thank you so much once again. I had a blast. I learned so much from you, and definitely impacted me. And thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
Bye bye.
Bye.